The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Badlands Daily. As you may or may not know, my name is Zak Paine. Myself and my good friend Ghost of Base Patrick Henry are going to be filling in exclusively for your regular daily host of Badlands Daily. That's going to be your favorite, Mr. CanCon, the man himself. Normally I'm here on Mondays, but obviously Brian is not here. He is traveling. Ghost and I just spent an incredible weekend in Nashville, Tennessee, and we had such a great time. Ghost, how are you?
I'm great, man. Yeah, got in late last night, and so flying by the seat of my pants. But have been unplugged for several days, so catching up will be nice on the news. And yeah, we had a great time in Nashville. It was as always an awesome time. I'd never been to Nashville before, so it's always nice to see a part of the country I've never seen. And thank you to everyone who joined us both in person and virtually.
Yeah, I would say much the same. You know, I had a great time in Nashville. Somebody at GART, a young woman who had come with her mother, was asking us, on the last day before we were leaving, what's your favorite GART? And I was like, man, that is really, really hard to pin down. If I had to say one particular one, it's obviously going to be the one where I got married in Las Vegas. Because clearly that was very memorable. But I mean, in terms of like the scope of the entirety of these events, I really don't think it's even possible, because every single time I'm like, this is my favorite GART. Like, I'm having such a good time. The people are always so amazing, so gracious. It's very humbling to meet with people that tell you that you've had a personal effect on their lives, or that you've helped them in some way. Because I don't know about you guys, but I feel the same way. I mean, like, it's incredible for me to meet people that we see in the chat, and that we just have a screen name, and then all of a sudden there's a face, there's a personality, there's a backstory to that person. And very quickly, every one of those people starts to feel like a lifelong friend or family. I mean, somebody that and then you come to more and more of these events, and you recognize faces, you see people that you've seen before, and you just yeah, I don't. You can hear it in my voice. I've been talking all weekend, like all day, every day, and just I wouldn't trade it for the world. So every GART is my favorite GART. That is, besides the one where I got married, obviously.
Yeah, and actually, I'd have the same answer. I'd say my favorite GART is the last GART, like the last one, right? Whichever one that is. But I will say the Vegas one was particularly special, not only because of the private ceremony we did for you and Lisa, but there was just meme magic in the air that weekend. So it's but every GART has that potential, and people were saying the same thing to me, like this message that was consistent, especially like on Friday, talking to a lot of people, both returning attendees, but also the new attendees who had spent like the Thursday night and Friday speaking to people. They were like, I just feel like I could walk up and like talk about anything, and it's not like I don't get looks, but like when they're at home, if they bring up certain subjects, it's like people look at them like, what do you talk like why are you talking about that? Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
This is for me one of the most personally fulfilling aspects of it, because many years ago, like after I had, became like a real person, no longer an anon. And like my vision for our movement was to fully create a sense of community, to actually bring people together come out from behind the keyboard. Because I felt that, I was looking out at the world and I'm seeing like, all of these left-wing movements and these protest movements. And, there's power in numbers. There's power in being able to gather together and to show your collective voice. And I thought that if we were truly going to take the reins of power back from the government, return that power to the people, in order to do that, the only way successfully that we would be to actually step out and to have that courage to do it and to step forward and speak. And, a large part of that is because we've been conditioned for most of our lives to not speak about certain things. Oh, you're going to dinner. Well, just make sure you don't talk about politics or religion. Well, as it stands, politics and religion tends to be some of the most important things that you can talk about, because if you don't speak about your faith, that doesn't end up informing what you do in your life. If you don't speak about what's happening in the world, then you just ignore it. And then the people who take advantage of you, the people who have destroyed this country and continued to try to break off piece by piece every bit of our liberty, they can do that a lot more successfully, because we have essentially been told that, these subjects are verboten, don't offend anybody. And the other day, last week in the chat, I was talking about comedians and why I love where comedy is today, because for many years, it got to the point where people were afraid to say things because they were afraid to offend people. And nowadays, offending people is back.
Yes.
And everything you say has to be offensive. But in my book, you cannot be afraid of being offensive. You have to be courageous enough to say the things that might offend people, because that's what freedom of speech is about. Protecting those things that may be abhorrent, okay? But you have the right to say it, because this is freaking America. And when they place chains on your ability to use words freely, they control a lot more than your voice. And I refuse to let that happen. By having these events all around the country, by bringing people together and showing them that conversations, even tough conversations, can be so vital to the human condition, to move things forward, to inform. I think that there's nothing more important in the world. And so I really value the time that we have every single time we do these.
Yeah. It's well said. And I would agree that anytime you're in an age or a season of triggering where people are very sensitive, I feel like you have to be more like the thing they're telling you not to talk about, not to do, you should be doing that, because otherwise that becomes verboten eventually. Right. And then it becomes stigmatized. And then that's just another segment of life or reality that you're not allowed to discuss. And that's ultimately chipping away at free speech and chipping away at just our ability to communicate and talk about things as they're happening in front of us.
Yes.
So yeah, and I would agree with all that, everything you said.
All right.
How about the intro though? I didn't see the intro till DPH on Saturday night. The new intro.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it as well, and I think it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I think my favorite is Jay Triet in the black trench coat.
I love that trench coat too. I would not complain if I was wearing that trench coat.
Yeah.
But yeah, Green Star did an amazing job with that video. So wanted to give a big shout out to him.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
let's get
listen,
into the news.
Well, I was going to say, before we get into the news, we should probably give a big shout out to the first sponsor of the day. And that, my friends, is going to be our people over there at cbdistillery.com. Because, Gordon, were you aware that April is CBD Awareness Month?
I did not know that.
Okay, well, now you do. And CB Distillery is celebrating this special month with one of their biggest sales of the entire year. So for a very limited time, you can save up to 60% off everything when you use the code RUMBLE. This is going to be their biggest, deepest discount. So it's the perfect time to stock up, or for the first time, maybe give CBD a try. So whether you're looking to get better sleep, less stress, mood, focus support, or relief after workouts, CB Distillery has got clean, plant-based solutions made just for you. It's premium quality CBD. There's nothing artificial. There's no fillers. It's just clean, plant-based solutions that totally work. So I personally am a big fan of the sleep formula. Generally speaking, I get, if I don't take anything, I get about 4 hours of sleep a night. I have a problem with being able to shut my brain off at the end of the day. And so being able to use their sleep formula, it just immediately sends me into dreamland. And then I wake up rested and refreshed. What about you?
Yes. That's the CBD that I like to use too, is the sleep one. And waking up refreshed, because there's nothing worse than having young kids and waking up multiple times in the middle of the night and you don't get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
That makes the next day rough.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people have tried CBD Distillery. They've got over 2 million happy customers. So CBD Distillery is a source that you guys can trust. If you've been tossing and turning at night, you want to get just a little bit more calm. Maybe you want a more natural way to support your body. Right now is a great time to try CBD from CBD Distillery. So don't miss CB Distillery's biggest sale of the year. Save up to 60% off site-wide when you use the code RUMBLE. Head on over to cbdistillery.com and enter the code RUMBLE, cbdistillery.com, code RUMBLE, because specific product availability is going to depend on individual state regulations. Their website is set up to show you exactly what is available in your state. And of course, as always, thank you very much to cbdistillery.com. Use that promo code RUMBLE, save up to 60% off. All right. Thank you very much to them. And Ghost, what was the first story you saw this morning when you woke up?
Yeah. And so actually, the most important story, and might shock people that I'm not going to geopolitics. We normally do start with domestic stories.
Yeah.
But I think this is the most important story. Is this front page article on Just the News. Impeachment bombshell, secret memos expose Ukraine accusers bias, hearsay, and false claim. The new memos the new memos declassified by Tulsi Gabbard were not available to the public during the 2019 impeachment trial. So let's read into this a little bit and then we can discuss. The U.S. intelligence watchdog developed derogatory evidence about the CIA analyst who prompted the 2019 Ukraine-focused impeachment against Donald Trump, including that he submitted false information in his whistleblower complaint, offered hearsay to support his allegations, and had the quote-unquote potential for bias, according to newly declassified memos that were kept from Americans during the failed bid by Democrats to remove the president from office 6 years ago. The documents, declassified by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard at the request of Just the News, provide a starkly different portrait of the alleged whistleblower whose name and face were never shown to the public and whose lawyerly written letter accusing Trump of hijacking Ukraine policy for political gain was heralded by Democrats to launch impeachment proceedings.
Now, Gordon, just for the sake of posterity, I think it's important that we mention Eric Ciaramella, CIA agent. That is the whistleblower in question. And at the time that this whole thing was playing out, that name, that face was so highly censored. Very early on, I figured out that it was Eric Ciaramella, published it on my channel, put out a video. That video was up for about 5 or 6 days. And then suddenly his name and face became verboten. I had probably done 3 videos on Eric Ciaramella leading up, as this was all playing out. And all at once, in one fell swoop, YouTube took them all down. And those videos were an immediate black eye on my channel. And from there on, you were not allowed to say Eric Ciaramella's name. How incredible was that? I mean, it's obvious why they didn't want us to say Eric Ciaramella. They didn't want people able to research this. They didn't want the American people to know that this was essentially an intel plot against the president. And they just wanted the official narrative coming out of Adam Schiff and the impeachment proceedings to be the only thing that people knew. And it's really unfortunate because for years, I had people, even conservatives, come up to me and say, well, Donald Trump tried to influence Ukraine. He definitely did something wrong when it came to Ukraine in that phone call. But that's only because they didn't bother to go any deeper. Or in some cases, they simply couldn't because of the state of social media.
Were you one of the first people to figure out that it was him?
I mean, I don't know that to be certain. I mean, it's just that during this period of time, I mean, like following along and seeing, who was all involved and what players could it possibly be. Eric Ciaramella was one of the people that I suggested was likely to be that whistleblower. And I mean, to be quite honest, I'm not watching a whole bunch of other people's content.
Were you not? You weren't showing your face back then?
No, I was, but at this point I was.
Oh, yeah, you were. Okay.
Yeah, I first showed my face in August of 2019.
Because your handle Red Pill 78 was definitely familiar to me when Badlands started. Like I had come across you before. But I didn't know where. But maybe that's where it was. Maybe it was from the Ciaramella thing. Because I definitely remember the censorship. This was pre-COVID, pre-election, 2020, all that. This was kind of like one of the first big censorship campaigns they did.
Yep.
And there were a few characters that were a part of this. Was Vindman a part of this one? Because he was
absolutely. Yeah. Vindman plays. Yeah, we'll hear Vindman's name when we get deeper into the article.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's continue. So let's see where we were. Investigators for the intelligence community, Inspector General, documented several concerns about the Trump accuser's political motives, noting he admitted he was a quote unquote registered Democrat who had worked closely with Joe Biden on Ukraine issues and who disliked some of the conservative figures in the president's orbit, the memos show. The investigators also elicited an apology from the Trump accuser for misleading the probe and were acutely aware of his allegations were based solely on second and third hand accounts about what Trump was alleged to have said and done. Quote, I do not have direct knowledge of private comments or communications by the president, the alleged whistleblower who claimed Trump improperly tried to pressure Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate Hunter Biden, admitted in his initial August 2019 intake form. Wow. That stunning line on the limitations of the whistleblower's knowledge was not included in the 9-page letter then House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff released in late summer 2019 that touched off a months-long political maelstrom and led to Trump's impeachment by a Democrat-led House and his eventual acquittal in the Senate. Wow, that's it's incredible that it's that bad.
Absolutely. And also, of course, as a Democrat, Eric Ciaramella came forward and was working directly with Adam Schiff's office prior to any of this information coming out. Adam Schiff also pretended to Congress and to the American people that, this was all an organic thing, that, he and this whistleblower, and I bristle at the use of that moniker for Eric Ciaramella. He wasn't a whistleblower. He was an operative. OK. And he worked with a series of other operatives, including Inspector General Michael Atkinson, obviously Vindman. Vindman was, he had been at the NSA and then he was at the NSC, and Atkinson was the Inspector General for the intelligence community. They all worked together through Adam Schiff to put this information out there. And they were well aware that the claims of Eric Ciaramella did not rise to the level of a proper whistleblower claim, because as stated right there, he did not have firsthand knowledge of anything that was said. Also, as a part of this release, Gordon, it's come out that Volodymyr Zelensky himself called emissaries of the fledgling Biden team. He called Democrats in America and said, I think we've got something that we can use on Trump. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right, so let's jump down here to where it first mentions Ciaramella. The alleged whistleblower's name was redacted from the newly declassified memos, but has been identified in some media reports as retired CIA analyst Eric Ciaramella, who now works at a DC think tank and is a regular on a podcast critical of Trump policies.
I was not aware of that.
Of course. Yeah. Well, a podcaster and a think tank thinker. Okay.
It's like perfect for him.
Yeah. Ciaramella has appeared on numerous podcast episodes put out by the anti-Trump lawfare outlet, Benjamin Witt. I don't know if it's Wits or Whites or Wits. Well, not going to work here anymore. The editor-in-chief of lawfare appeared on multiple episodes with Ciaramella. Wits was described by Politico in 2017 as, quote, the bard of the deep state, and that's a retarded moniker. Gay, and is a longtime Trump critic and a self-described friend of fired FBI Director James Comey and Stroke. Ciaramella did not respond to a request for comment sent to him through the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, where he is listed as the Ukraine Initiative Director for the Russia and Eurasia Program. Of course he is.
Yes, of course.
Cannot make this up, man. I want to see the Vindman part because I think he is mentioned in this. No, he's not. Vindman is not mentioned in this article.
Well, okay. So I think there's like 3 articles that Just the News put out in relation to this newly released set of documents. I know there's one where they speak at length about Michael Atkinson's role as well. Hold on just a second. Let me see if I can.
Okay. While you do that, I'll just read. I'll read a little bit more, and then
Okay.
we can see if you find that. Let's see. When evidence emerged in media reports that he had indeed had prior contact with Democrats, they're talking about Ciaramella.
Yeah.
On the House Intelligence Committee, the alleged whistleblower admitted he had omitted that information in his initial contacts with the IG and offered an apology, something never disclosed to the public. The quote-unquote disclosure of urgent concern form submitted by the whistleblower on August 13th, 2019 included answering a section titled, I have previously disclosed or am disclosing the violations alleged here to complete all that apply. He checked a box next to other office of department agency involved and said he had already spoken with the CIA Office of General Counsel, the CIA's election security mission manager. That thing, I can't believe that title even exists. The National Intelligence Officer for Russia, and the chair and vice chair of the National Intelligence Council. And when I hear those titles, like I just think, okay, so that first one, the Office of General Counsel, that's the lawyer that helps the CIA basically just get away with being an organized crime syndicate. The second one, the election security mission manager, that's the office that helps steal elections around the world. National Intelligence Officer for Russia, that's, I guess, the officer assigned to run color revolutions in Russia, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that last one, the National Intelligence Council, I guess that's just like, that's like in the movie 300 when he has to climb the mountain and like the E4s are like, with the, giving drugs to the young woman and just being very creepy, like that's probably what the National Intelligence Council is like.
There you go.
Yeah. Any luck finding that article?
So I did find, I found another one here. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me share this. Pardon me. And okay.
So yeah, so it sounds like Ciaramella was Carmelo Anthony was it sounds like he was just working with the CIA the entire time before he went to the this is treason. We will get there, but let's see if Vindman comes up in this other article.
Yes, absolutely.
Because as the audience may remember, if you were paying attention back then, Vindman was escorted out of the Pentagon by security, right? And basically they were worried he was in like steal the staplers and the paper clips on his way out, probably, and maybe a few classified documents. So he had to be escorted out by security.
All right. So these new memos that have been declassified lay out the multiple biases. You mentioned one of them, his status as a registered Democrat. He also worked for Joe Biden. He was also involved in conversations related to the corruption that was ongoing in Ukraine. So working for Joe Biden, also having knowledge of the overt corruption taking place in Ukraine. He was well aware of the Biden family's activities there. He also had a view that he had been pushed out of the Trump National Security Council because of so-called right-wing bloggers. And revelations have emerged that his role in pushing the Biden-led Obama administration efforts in Ukraine didn't fully come out until after, of course, the impeachment efforts itself. And okay, and here it says here, Real Clear Investigations is credited with first identifying Ciaramella as the whistleblower.
Okay.
All right. So, as you said, he was listed as the director for Baltic and Eastern European Affairs on the Obama NSC, affiliated with the Interagency Policy Committee. That was the task force that was put together to determine and advise on whether or not Ukraine was cleaning up their endemic corruption and whether they deserved any additional Western foreign aid. Of course, Joe Biden famously tied that Western foreign aid to the firing of the very prosecutor that was investigating corruption in the country, that specifically was investigating his son. And they had to get rid of him if they were going to allow that $1 billion aid package to be released. We also had visitor logs from the White House showing that Ciaramella had routinely visited and had meetings inside the Obama White House, including one specifically related to Ukraine. And then they mentioned the IRS whistleblowers who verified the authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop by November of 2019, so well before the story fully dropped near the election of 2020. But they did that in the middle of the Ukraine impeachment effort, which obviously is a huge problem for the deep state, having been exposed such as this. They, of course, had to cover all of this up because otherwise it would be very obvious what they were doing. Not only were they covering up for the crimes and corruption of people they had previously worked for, people they were hoping to again install in the highest annals of power, but also it fully informs the actions that were taking place in the midst of the impeachment efforts. And then, of course, in March of this year, there was a release of 2 2019 transcripts from closed-door meetings with Michael Atkinson that specifically spoke about Eric Ciaramella, the so-called Ukraine whistleblower. And then one of those transcripts is what was just released as well. So great deal of widespread speculation about the classified hearing transcripts that Michael Atkinson testified, indicative of the American people's complete and warranted mistrust of the intelligence community. The IC routinely hides behind the veil of overclassification, and sometimes, obviously, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So in August 26th of 2019, Atkinson, who is the Intelligence Community Inspector General, wrote that although the ICIG's preliminary review identified some indicia of an arguable political bias on the part of the complainant, Ciaramella, in favor of a rival political candidate, Joseph Robinette Biden, such evidence did not change my determination that the complaint relating to the urgent concern appears credible, particularly given the other information the ICIG obtained during their preliminary review. I wonder what that could be, because some of the information that they were able to glean during that review was the glaring, obvious fact that Eric Ciaramella was not a first-hand witness to this supposed attempts by President Trump to influence Volodymyr Zelensky and to engage in some type of corrupt actions himself. So on September 26th of 2019, at approximately 8:45 a.m., Ciaramella contacted Ryder via secure line, the memo says. Complainant had concerns over wording in a letter from the ICIG, which would have been Atkinson to the DNI, at that time Joseph McGuire, specific to this indicia of arguable political bias. So Ciaramella expressed concern that he had someone indicated to Ryder during the interview of support for a political candidate, which would not have been correct or intentional. So he's trying to cover up who he is, what his political bias is, the fact that he is supporting Joe Biden. Obviously, that can't be on the record if they're going to pretend that this guy is somehow a dispassionate third-party witness to some overt corruption that just happens to be coming from a Republican who's president. Now, also, media leaks appeared to resemble a limited hangout on Ciaramella's bias. Breaking, a source familiar with the investigation prompted by this whistleblower tells me that the indicia of bias, of an arguable political bias on the part of the whistleblower, referred to by the intel community IG, is that the whistleblower is a registered Democrat. So Jake Tapper put that out. Of course, then once they mention it, they can easily glaze over it and they can say, well, of course, he may be a registered Democrat. I mean, we live in a two-party system. I mean, obviously, everybody's registered as something. But at the end of the day, this guy is an American patriot, or this person, this he or she, because they were going as far as they could to not expose anything that would identify this person. But Eric Ciaramella's Democratic registration was by no means the only nor the most significant indicator of bias. We also had a report from the Washington Examiner come out just a few days later that these concerns about bias were not just about the Democratic registration of Eric Ciaramella, but more importantly, about his professional relationship with an unnamed Democratic presidential candidate. I wonder who that was. Obviously, Joe Biden. That would be closer to the possibility of any potential bias he would have, but it was not the full picture. Under questioning from Republicans during last Friday's impeachment inquiry interview with Michael Atkinson, the Inspector General revealed that the whistleblower's possible bias was not that he was simply a registered Democrat. It was that he had a significant tie to one of the Democratic presidential candidates currently vying to challenge President Trump in next year's election. Michael Atkinson said the whistleblower worked or had some type of professional relationship with one of the Democrat candidates. The IG said the whistleblower had a professional relationship with Joe Biden. When Atkinson said that the whistleblower self-disclosed that he was a registered Democrat and that he had this prior working relationship, a third source tells the outlet that all three sources said Atkinson did not identify the Democrat candidate, didn't even ask about it. He's like, oh, you have a professional relationship with some nebulous presidential candidate? We don't even need to know who that is. That's how much we trust you. It's unclear what the working or professional relationship between the two was. It goes to show just how directly Michael Atkinson was working to cover up anything related to Eric Ciaramella or any potential bias that he might have had, specifically hoping to use Eric Ciaramella's story to successfully impeach President Trump. Are you still there, Ghost? Okay, I guess he's not still there.
I'm still there. I just had to get rid of my dogs because they were about to start barking up a storm.
Oh, okay. All right. So you heard what I said. Atkinson was strangely disinterested in who Ciaramella worked for, or who that person might have been. Okay. So obviously highly notable. Ciaramella worked for the Obama administration, worked directly for Biden, was supporting Biden, worked in Ukraine. We don't know specifically, everything that he did in Ukraine, but he had enough of exposure to understand the level of corruption. And also, that should, in a perfect world, in an unbiased world, inform Eric Ciaramella's knowledge about Donald Trump asking the president of Ukraine, about Joe Biden and his family's relationship there. I mean, it's just obvious. If you've got a nation that suffers from endemic corruption, where this candidate, no matter who they are, and their family is doing corrupt business in that country, also was directly responsible for getting rid of the only person in Ukraine who was investigating corruption or the criminal actions of this foreign country, the United States of America, having undue influence in their country, then it's just obvious. You got to ask about it. You got to get information about it. So there was this lengthy article that was written in October of 2024, just before the election between Trump and Harris. And they said that two of Atkinson's investigators interviewed the analyst, which would be Ciaramella, his supervisors, and a few of the sources that were mentioned in the complaint, so they could corroborate his account and confirm that his job afforded him access to the information in the report. And they asked the analyst how someone might attack his credibility. So the analyst recalled telling them that he was a registered Democrat, that we never had donated to a political candidate or attended a campaign event. I specifically remember them using this line at that time. As part of his official duties, he had interacted with Biden when he was vice president, also with Trump. He doubted either of them knew his name. Total bullshit. Eric Ciaramella was high on the radar of the Biden team. Not the full story. We also have a story from the Kiev Post in June of 2016 that the former Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk was traveling to the U.S. to meet with Vice President Joe Biden at the time. While he was in Washington, the Popular Front leader plans to discuss the current results and future objectives of Ukrainian reform with authoritative experts and specialists. That's a quote from the press secretary of Yatsenyuk. And then Yatsenyuk's Facebook page posts a picture of him with Biden in June of 2016. And in that same picture, you can also see Eric Ciaramella is in the very same meeting. And then the official Twitter account of Joe Biden also posted a cropped version of that picture so that they could remove Eric Ciaramella. Even at that time, I think that they were foreseeing that perhaps the people that they were going to leave embedded in a possible incoming administration could then be used for some type of op, just like the one that we saw play out.
Which is evidence of a grand conspiracy.
Exactly. Amen. Yes. Amen. The grand conspiracy. So this alleged whistleblower was also a listed guest of, at that time, Vice President Biden at a luncheon in October of 2016 to honor the Prime Minister of Italy. And he was also among a group of U.S. officials who accepted the invitation. So he was definitely there. We had emails that were released in the months and years after the Ukraine impeachment, and it shows directly that Eric Ciaramella was working with none other than Ukraine's favorite color revolution strategist, Victoria Nuland, also directly hailing from the Ukraine impeachment, U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, also many, many others. Now, if anybody doesn't know Victoria Nuland, she was the Assistant Secretary of State for Eurasian and European Affairs from 2013 to 2017. She was a central figure in the implementation of the Ukraine policies of the Obama-Biden administration. And of course, President Trump fired Marie Yovanovitch. She was in a holdover from the Obama administration, and she played a large and visible role in the impeachment proceedings. Victoria Nuland also told the Senate in September of 2020 that, quote, it varied at various times on who was in charge of Ukraine policy under Charles Kupchan, saying that both Eric Ciaramella and Zentos were involved at various times. Eric was regularly the clearing authority to get me into the White House for interagency meetings on Ukraine, or for meetings with foreign visitors who were jointly meeting on the compound, or I may have been coming to see any number of NSC staffers, Ciaramella concluded. Now, Nuland said, of course, I did discuss Ukraine policy and the Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office with Ciaramella, saying he was part of the interagency process. He was also on my negotiating team for the 6 or 7 rounds of negotiations I did with the Russians on Donbass. And former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt claimed to the Senate in September of 2020 that it wasn't Vice President Biden who conditioned the assistance. It was our interagency policy. The day-to-day worker bee engagement happens at the level of the sub-IPC, and that would include people like NSC directors, like Eric Ciaramella, and dozens of other people across the government. Now, Ciaramella's... go ahead.
Can I add a little bit of color to the...
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pull my screen up. Okay. So there's a magazine. Out there that I stumbled upon called State Magazine. And I think this is I think it's like a magazine the State Department puts out for like all of their employees around the world, plus anyone else who
it's like on the coffee table in the embassies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. Because I am a schizo, I have read some of these editions, and I found one that's really, really interesting from March of 2012, where they are recapping the establishment of the embassies in the collapsed Soviet Union in the 90s, right? Like all the different countries. And so obviously one of those countries is Ukraine. And they kind of go in and they give the backstory and, honor the State Department employees. And so these are the 2 people that they honor. And I went ahead and blew this up. And it says the first two local staff hired at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine in 1991 were driver Viktor Golovatyuk and protocol chief Irina Vozianova. Vozianova. I'm just going to call her Irina. So both are still employed with Mission Ukraine. This was 2012 that this was published. So I can confirm after doing research on this that Vozianova goes on to become a top personal aide for Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland seems to be involved in Ukraine from the very beginning, from the 90s.
Oh, yes.
And she's like her personal translator. She's attending all of her meetings. This is during this is right up until Nuland is fired from State Department, and then she or resigns or whatever. And then I think she continued working there to 2021, 2022. So she's there for 30 years. Mm-hmm. That is really interesting to me that they put that out there and recognize her as the first person. I mean, this other guy's just a driver. She's the first person that's hired to set up the embassy in Ukraine. And then there she is, after the Maidan coup, right? Working alongside with the coup leader, Victoria Nuland, running the show in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and then once you're done with what you're running through, I have the Vindman stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's probably good to jump into the Vindman stuff. I mean, Vindman was on the NSC. Vindman and his twin brother, they were obviously dual United States citizens. It was Vindman who first called Eric Ciaramella at the CIA and said, hey, I have this information, and I think it should probably come from you because then you can run it through the agency. And we can make sure that it does the most damage to President Trump. But go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, and it's important for those understanding that the Vindman brothers, they're twins. I think they were both in the Navy, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe
but they're both working for the State Department at this point. Yeah. They play key roles in the impeachment hearing, right? Which runs between the end of 2019 and 2020. And so Missy Brash just gave us a Rumble rant. Thank you, Missy. And she says, how much of that missing Ukraine money ended up in Vindman's bank account? That is a great question. Great timing. Mm-hmm. So I have this article, which is not directly connected to what we're going through to the DNI's, to Tulsi Gabbard's declassification today, but it is indirectly connected. This is from December 21st, 2025. So a few months ago. Pentagon wants ethics inquiry on Representative Vindman's Ukraine business dealings. And basically the TLDR is that the Pentagon is asking for an investigation because while he was working at the State Department and doing work specifically in Ukraine, he was also running around working on behalf of NGOs and private organizations, brokering arms deals, logistics deals, military training. Basically, they were setting up everything that was going to be necessary to fight Russia in a war.
Right. And one of the Vindman brothers, if not both of them, actually served in the Ukrainian government. They had and I don't know if that was concurrent with any jobs they held at the State Department, but I know that at one time, one of them actually was an official government minister in Ukraine.
Yeah, that is fascinating information. Yeah. So one of these NGOs is the Atrocity Crimes Advisory Group. Mm-hmm. He says he had worked there for a year and a half, and he claims he has done so as part of a state Department of State funded program. The other really big group that's at the center of all this is this group called Trident Support LLC, which Vindman claims is an NGO, but as I think it's his Dunleavy's article, as he says he couldn't find any evidence of this that it's a nonprofit. But basically, this Trident Support LLC is the broker that's brokering arms deals with major weapons manufacturers. It's bringing in logistics. It's providing specialists who can come in and mercenaries who can come in and train up their militias to fight Russia. So basically, it's like a CIA cutout. I mean, yep. That's what it is. And allegedly, what they want investigated is the notion that Vindman was working for these groups while he was working at the State Department?
Well, I think it's clear that obviously something rather unsavory was going on, because as I'm sure you'll remember, Rachel Vindman, the wife of Alexander Vindman, this Vindman in question that became like the catalyst for the Ukraine impeachment, became the star witness of the Ukraine impeachment after Joe Biden left office, she was very upset that her husband was not among those that had been given a preemptive pardon by Joe Biden. And you can see right here, Rachel posted on Blue Sky, "Whatever happens to my family, know this, no pardons were offered or discussed. I cannot begin to describe the level of betrayal and hurt I feel." So quite clearly, Rachel and Alexander believe that they did something that necessitates a pardon. And I always thought that it was fascinating that Biden chose not to include them among the list of people that he cleared of any potential prosecution. And I think that it may become far more relevant now that these documents are being released and declassified by the DNI. How amazing would that be?
Yeah. And again, I think this is going to tie into Russia. This is going to tie into their attempt to start World War III. Of course, that bleeds into the Middle East. But getting back to the original story that we were covering, which is these declassified documents, which apparently were only declassified because Just the News asked for them.
Yep.
And, that's relevant because John Solomon, the founder and owner of it, was working with Kash Patel, right?
Yeah.
To get those documents during that was during the Biden administration, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes. I mean, John Solomon and Just the News have been on top of this. I mean, he's stated before that there were people in the Trump administration during the first administration that basically came to him and said, "We're going to need you to stay on this path, and you're going to need to continue and attempting to bring this information forward." Personally, I think that the plan to release this information was always in the cards. It was just a matter of finding these documents once they actually got back into office, and they knew that Just the News was going to be the outlet that they wanted to release them through.
Yeah, and the timing, because right now Tulsi Gabbard is in the crosshairs of Mossad media. That would be, Laura Loomer's at the tip of the spear, Mark Levin's at the tip of the spear, but there's a lot, Ben Shapiro. There's a lot of alternative media, but also mainstream media adjacent that are all gunning for Tulsi Gabbard. And that's because I think she's like the hero of the story. I think I do too. She's the person in the administration that I think I trust the most, outside of Trump, of course.
Yes. Certainly in the cabinet.
Yeah, certainly in the cabinet. She might be the only real cabinet member for all we know. But anyway, so she releasing this at this moment is huge because I think this is going to get the ball rolling. As I wrote in the news brief this morning, I mean, the underlying implications of what is being released here is that basically I think the entire intelligence community is culpable now because
100%.
Either they knew and they went along with it, or they didn't know and they should have known and stopped it. And if their argument's going to be, well, we were ignorant, we didn't know, sorry, then what they're telling us is they're useless, incompetent, and frankly, a dangerous liability, because I think most people are assuming that there are watchers out there that are watching for this kind of stuff. And if those watchers aren't actually watching out for it, then why the hell do we have them to begin with? So I think this is an indictment of the entire intelligence community. The whole thing should be investigated. And we really should reevaluate whether we actually need the intelligence community or whether those powers can be delegated to the military and maybe other agencies. Like if there needs to be a federal law enforcement agency, that discussion should be had, and the extent of its power should be discussed. But, maybe between them and the military, they can take over the duties of the IC.
Well, I think that it's undeniable that the CIA is rogue as a whole. I tried to make a point on stage, perhaps, not as well as I should have, that there are there is a need for a foreign intelligence service. And
of course,
there's going to be good men and women working within the CIA. You've got all different types of working groups, individuals, teams that are siloed off, working on specific things. So, the left hand is not going to know what the right hand is doing. And that's very intentional so that something like this can take place and the information doesn't get out too widely. Of course, their mistake here was that they involved too many people from too many different agencies. And they were, I think there's a little bit of hubris here in thinking that, we've got it. We're finally going to get Trump. We're going to be able to bring him down. But at this point, it is pretty obvious that the CIA as a whole is rogue. They've been rogue for far too long. I don't think that it's possible to rehabilitate them in their current incarnation. Sure, I mean, John Ratcliffe, maybe for all intents and purposes doing a good job, seems to be aligned with President Trump. But is it possible to truly root out all of that rot within all of these different working groups and siloed communities within the CIA? I would say it's unlikely. And my ultimate fear, Gordon, has always been that even if they dismantle the CIA, what's to stop those groups of people from continuing to operate with the training and clandestine operations that they've received? I mean, they've basically gotten the best spy school that you can possibly receive. And they've been so successful over these many years because they know exactly what they're doing. They have the resources. They also have connections to other intelligence agencies around the world, other different groups of people who are operating with the same goals and the same intentions. So yeah, I can see a world where a foreign intelligence service is necessary, but obviously that's not what the CIA is now. And somebody had said to me over the weekend, and I've always thought this, that the CIA long ago had also infiltrated the FBI. I would suggest the CIA has most likely infiltrated every federal government agency that there possibly is. I mean, what better cover would you have than a CIA agent operating within some other agency of the federal government, always reporting back, steering the direction of policy and focus to ensure that the CIA is always the guiding hand of the government, making sure that the decisions that are made, although they seem to be disconnected and totally organic, are actually being made in a very calculated manner by an agency that has long since stepped outside the boundaries of their charter.
Yeah. And to that point, I actually want to show you something that I recently discovered and blew my mind. I actually haven't shared this with the audience yet. So this will be new for everyone. So I ended up watching the first few episodes of the Octopus Murders finally.
Oh yeah, that's a great documentary.
Yeah, well, I now understand why they made the show. They made the show to completely whitewash Israel's involvement in that entirely. Like they are completely erased from that entire story, despite the fact that they are at the absolute epicenter of it. It like blew my mind. And they even had Ari bin Minash on there, who is like one of the brains behind the whole thing, and he's sitting there like mocking the people involved. It's like, wow, this is very shameless. But I just
did you see the baseless conspiracies that we did on it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes. Y'all did a great job. But I just saw it recently, like within the past few months or a week. But okay. Well, anyway, I was trying to find this part of this book. This is the Israel Super Spy book written by Thomas Gordon on Robert Maxwell. And it explains in here that when they got the Promise software, because it was, of course, Mossad that stole it and put the back door on it. They were going around selling it to the governments, of course, these obscure third world governments, mostly like Soviet Union republics, right? The ones that are inside the Soviet Union. But they also go and they sell it to banks. And the first bank that they target is Credit Suisse. And for those who don't know what Promise software is, the prosecutor management information software is what it's called, or system, Promise. And basically, it's like an early AI that was developed in like the late 70s by a company called the Inslaw Group, former CIA or former NSA, NSA, I think it was NSA. And basically, it's like it takes data. It just takes like spreadsheets data, and it can analyze it quickly, find connections, find relationships. And so they're selling
now,
it.
It's also important to mention that, Bill Inslaw did not develop this software with the intention of using it to spy. Yes. It was the promise of the promise software was noted by members of the intel community. And they figured, well, geez, we can just steal it. We can add the back door, and then we can sell it all around the world. And then we'll gain access to the internal machinations of all of these governments and banks. And obviously, I mean, the nation is built on a system of blackmail. I mean, that's the currency of the intel community. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, of course. And so they sell it to Credit Suisse. This is right around the time that Jonathan Pollard, the traitor that has recently become famous again, was arrested by the FBI in 1984. And his handler, Rafi Eitan, who's one of the most significant figures in Mossad history, decides that we can actually use this other guy, Robert Maxwell, who has connections everywhere. He can kind of become our new Pollard. And so they get him to study all the information that they're getting from Credit Suisse, because they sell it to Credit Suisse. They've installed a backdoor, and now they learn all the dirty secrets of everybody, like all the different mafias, organized crime syndicates, anyone who's trying to hide money in a Swiss bank account at Credit Suisse, they know about. And they stumble onto this guy, Richard Brunecki, who, as it's described in the book, spends 16 hours a day just moving millions of dollars around from one account to the other for the CIA. It's their black budget operations, right? And he's the best. He's described as the best money launderer in the world. And what Mossad does is they tell Robert Maxwell to study this guy just day and night and watch what he does, learn everything he's doing, and then become better than him. And so then that is what leads to Robert Maxwell becoming the most prolific money launderer in the world in the latter 1980s. And the secret that he develops to money laundering is he also goes to Bulgaria and sells it to the weapons manufacturers of the Soviet Union, and becomes very, very good friends with their leadership. And they let him use their banks, which they don't let any Westerners use their banks. And the secret to money laundering, Robert Maxwell figures out, is to move money from a Western bank to a Soviet bank, because there's a very strong firewall between the two, and there's no oversight. So the minute you move it to a Bulgarian bank and then back to a Western bank, it's clean, right?
Yep.
To that effect. And so that is how Robert Maxwell basically becomes a better money launderer than even the CIA. And that, the rest is history. But it's a fascinating just connection there, because Credit Suisse has been coming up a lot in the news lately. They're under investigation right now by the Senate. And we're going to get a report soon about what this investigator, David Borofsky, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
He's somebody to put on your radar, because he's the guy who was appointed in 2008 to investigate the TARP payments that Obama made to the banks, the $3 trillion. Yeah. And he's the guy who came and testified that it was a scam, and that basically the banks had just robbed the American people. So he's very familiar with like the financial crimes of the banks. And now he's investigating one of the biggest banks ever, Credit Suisse, and the corruption that is going on back there, specifically the Nazi corruption. But it sounds like he stumbled onto a lot of other stuff. So anyway, that's another sidebar. But again, this all connects back, because this is connected to what was happening in Ukraine, I think, with the Vindman and Newland, and ultimately Hunter Biden.
It's incredible, the level of corruption that exists in the world today. And all right, you guys, we have something really important that I want to mention before we go into any other subjects. But before we do that, I do have a quick word from our next sponsor, and that is going to be our friends at Rumble. and of course, Rumble Wallet specifically. You guys, this is a small inside scoop. If you're a creator on Rumble, a lot of people are talking about this behind the scenes. And it's actually one of the reasons that we are using Rumble, why we love Rumble, because they support crypto and most importantly, they support creators here. They've actually made a way to super chat so that the people you love to watch and listen to, those creators, get paid immediately and there are no fees. So YouTube and Twitch, if you don't know, they take up to 50% of fees when you are tipping creators. This is a method that takes none. That's right. This platform takes 0 fees. So we here at Badlands keep nearly 100% of what you donate to us. And it allows you to super chat with Bitcoin, with Tether USD, and even Tether Gold stable coins. So if you use Rumble Wallet, it shows up just like a regular Rumble rant. Tip shows up. You can add a message. And of course, we're going to go ahead and read it here on the air. But all you need to do is download the Rumble Wallet app from the App Store, and then you can very quickly and easily send tips to your favorite creators. You can do that by downloading it directly from the App Store on your device, or you can just go to wallet.rumble.com, and then you can download it that way. You can also use the QR code that you see on screen. It's seriously an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and, importantly, help support the creator economy. So we want to give a big shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology and making it possible for us to continue staying on the air. All right. Now, I also saw a super chat from Kairos 5326. Do you have that on screen, Gordon?
Is it are you referring to the Rumble rant? Or are you?
I'm referring to the Rumble rant. Yeah, from Kairos.
I have it.
Because
yes, I have Kairos. I have Kairos 5326. Okay. Says, hey friends, our dear Sherry has lost her house. Please send prayers. If you're able, you may offer financial support here. And there's a GiveSendGo link, and we will put the GiveSendGo link in the comments as well, so it stays up after the show ends. Very sorry to hear that, Sherry, and thank you, Kairos, for sharing that. Definitely sending prayers to her and her family.
Yeah. So, Sherry has been a fixture in the chat for a very long time. Big supporter of not only Badlands, but also my channel as well. She's always so positive and happy. And, one of the, quite honestly, every single day when I post a show, she's the first person to show up and jump in the chat. So I had no idea that she was going through this. And I just wanted to put this out there because it's her husband, their 3 kids, and she says that they recently lost their house and now they're living in a broken mobile home. And so she's trying to raise some money so that, her and her kids and her family basically are going to be okay. So I've donated, and if you feel or you have the ability to support them, then I encourage you to do so. So I just wanted to put that out there and let you, Sherry, know that we are praying for you. We're praying for your kids. We're praying for you and your husband. And hopefully everything will be okay. Ultimately, I know it will. God provides, and our community is the kind that I think, can rally behind this. So, and honestly, thanks for having the courage to even say something. A lot of people would just suffer in silence. So
yes. God bless you, Sherry, and Kairos. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
sharing that.
Thank you very much.
So I just put it in the comments for those listening on replay. I just put it in the comments. You can find it there. Please give what you can to help Sherry.
Yes.
Okay, so we spent a long time on that first story, but that was a big story, I feel. Yeah. And I never really covered domestic stuff, but if it's Tulsi Gabbard and it's treason and it's the intelligence community, that gets my jimmies rustled. So,
well, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, it plays into some of these major geopolitical themes that we talk about on a regular basis. I mean, it's the perfect nexus of foreign and domestic.
For sure. Okay, so from there, let's hit a few more quick domestic stories, and then we'll get into the international. So this one, another one from Just the News, big story. Y'all are probably familiar with it by now, but Swalwell has suspended his campaign for California governor amid furor over sex assault allegations.
Yep. Believe all women, guys. Remember, Just as Eric Swalwell said, believe all women.
Yes. And so his statement says, "To my family, staff, friends, and supporters, I'm deeply sorry for my mistakes and judgment I've made in my past." Swalwell wrote in his X account, "I will fight the serious false allegations that have been made, but that's my fight, not a campaign's." And I'm pretty sure I haven't dug deep into this, but I've just seen that they're like still shots of him. Like,
oh, there's a video. There's multiple multiple videos of him with a known sex worker. Okay. She's being identified, and she's definitely a hooker. And there are at least two other people, I would assume, men in the room. And Eric Swalwell is on the bed with this woman and basically pawing all over her and, kissing her right in front of them. Somebody is recording. Another man is sitting to that person's right. It may be Ruben Gallego. Senator Ruben Gallego. He's very good friends with Eric Swalwell. He actually ran Swalwell's campaign. I believe his first campaign for governor, unsuccessful campaign for governor, just as this one was unsuccessful. And it's much deeper than simply Eric Swalwell making a couple of bad decisions. There is a pattern of behavior that Eric Swalwell has had. And going back as far as 2017, left-wing outlets were reporting that a certain Democrat member of Congress, a younger Democrat member of Congress, had a habit of inappropriate conversations and relationships with his staffers and perhaps other staffers of congressmen as well. But Eric Swalwell was never named.
We also can't forget about Feng Feng.
Oh, no, of course you can't forget about Feng Feng. I mean, I think that likely Eric Swalwell's reputation is what led to Feng Feng being able to co-opt him in such a way. I mean, to use sex to get close to him. Because, of course, Eric Swalwell appears to have a one-track mind. He would routinely use Snapchat to send unsolicited dick pics to female staffers, young female staffers. Gizmo's mom, I will share the link one more time in the chat. And then also the link has been shared in the comments of this so that even after we're not live, people who are watching the replay, they can go and they can get the link from the comments as well. All right.
So there's something about Eric Swalwell. Like, I never have really been able to take him seriously. I don't know how long he's been in Congress, but it's definitely been during the Trump era. Mm-hmm. The best way for me to describe him, like if you asked me to describe him, like his distinguishing features to a blind person, what I would say is that he is like a handsome Manchurian candidate, and you've removed a chromosome. Like, you've taken the chromosome away.
Yeah, because he's not that handsome. He's just
no. He looks like this is him. He looks like he's missing a chromosome. Like he's like Eye Patch McCain, but missing a chromosome. Not that Eye Patch McCain is a looker. But there's just something about him that he seems like it's almost like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Like, he was living in a permanent care facility, like the place where you have to wear a helmet to prevent from getting a head injury. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation people were like, "What wish do you want, Eric?" And he's like, "I want to be a congressman for a day." And they went and like indulged that and gave him a whole staff and everything, kind of like Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio, where they like indulged the delusion. And then they just forgot to like turn off the simulation. He just like, and then the Congress people were like, "Oh yeah, this guy's a congressman, swear him in." Feng Feng is like a Chinese spy thinking that she's infiltrating the US government, but it's like, no, you're just sleeping with a mentally handicapped, retarded person from Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, what better person to have in Congress than somebody you can control through sexual blackmail? Of course, Adam Schiff knew about it. Nancy Pelosi knew about it. That means that you've always got someone in your own state, in your own caucus, that you can depend on for a vote when it comes down to something. Eric Swalwell is going to toe the line because the Democrats have been fully aware of his predilections this entire time. They've collected all of this blackmail, and they were ready to use it against him when necessary. And this is obvious because all they wanted to do was get him to drop out of the governor's race. There were too many Democrats. The front runner for the gubernatorial election in California is Steve Hilton. He is polling, higher than anybody else. Eric Swalwell in recent weeks, I think because of attacks from President Trump and being called out, he used that and said, "Oh, this is all political. President Trump and his proxies in MAGA are attempting to take me out. We're not going to let that happen. You're not going to let President Trump decide who becomes the governor of California. That raises his profile a little bit. But all the Democrats knew that if they didn't put this information out, somebody was going to put this information out. And if Eric Swalwell siphoned enough votes off of the remaining, I believe, 4 or 5 Democrat candidates, then at the end of the day, you would end up having Sheriff Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton as the only people running in the election by the time you get to the general election, because it's a jungle primary. It doesn't matter what party you are. It's just the 2 top vote getters in the primary. And so Katie Porter, also from California, she's Southern California. Eric Swalwell is the Bay Area. She and Eric knew each other. Okay. They had office space right next to each other. Their staffers were well acquainted with each other. And I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Swalwell also attempted to sleep with Katie Porter's staff as well. Katie Porter has her own problems. She's a domestic abuser. She's also an abuser of her staff. I'm sure you've seen that famous clip where she's doing a spot on a television show and her staffer comes in behind her in the kitchen to give her some information about something she said wrong. And Katie Porter just screams at her about getting out of my shot. And she just looks like a psychopath. Of course, she also beat her husband, allegedly, according to him, with a pot of mashed potatoes, a hot pot of mashed potatoes, right in front of their children. And she also used their children in the divorce against her husband in a really unsavory way. So Katie Porter was aware of this. She is directly connected to this woman, Cheyenne, who's a Democrat strategist who initially started talking about these claims. And they used this to push Eric Swalwell out of the race, thereby shrinking the field of Democrat candidates. If they can take Eric Swalwell's total and add it to Katie Porter, theoretically, she could become the leader in the race for California governor. But I think based upon all those problems I just said, there is not there's no appetite for Katie Porter among California politics, even if they're Democrats. They realize that she's a disgusting person and that she's got her own issues as well. Now, I think now that Eric Swalwell is left, we're probably going to be hearing a lot more about that on the regular basis.
Well, so that's an interesting angle that this is like Democrats taking out Democrats, right?
Yes.
Like this is just old school down and dirty politics.
Yep.
Because like, again, I think I saw someone in the chat say this is a distraction. I actually don't think so at all, because remember the Fang thing was like heavily seeded, seeded that he was sleeping with a Chinese spy. And now that we have confirmation that he is like an adulterer and he is like doing this stuff,
an alleged rapist
has to be investigated.
An alleged rapist, Gordon. It's not just that he was sleeping with young women.
Really?
Yes. There was a staffer that he pursued relentlessly who was in a relationship with another man who is now married to that man. He pursued her. She pushed him off until finally he got her drunk at an event. They went out to the parking lot and he produces his penis and says, "Give me oral sex." And she does. He says, "I can help your career. All it takes is a blowjob." And so then from there, he took her out another night, got her blackout drunk. The insinuation almost seems to be that she was drugged because she has memories of going to this event. She has one drink, and then the next thing she knows, she's gone. She wakes up in the morning. I think she wakes up in Eric Swalwell's shower in his hotel room, and she has been washed, okay? But she can feel that she had sex. And then she starts to remember flashes of what happened. And she remembers saying no, okay, and telling Eric Swalwell to stop. He doesn't stop. She came forward. Now, what's also really interesting about this is that there are quite literally dozens of women who have come forward, most of them anonymous, all except for the woman who claims she was raped. Even before these women, and Eric Swalwell denies everything, but even before these women had told their story in, I believe, the San Francisco Chronicle, where they are not identified, Eric Swalwell's lawyers sent cease and desist letters to every single one of them, except to the woman who claims she raped him, because she went to the doctor. She had a rape kit. All right. There is physical evidence on that one. And the more he pushes that, the more it becomes obvious that it has to be proven in a court of law. He's currently under investigation for that rape. And the real question is, if none of this happened, then how did he know who to send cease and desist letters to?
This is fascinating, because if this whole thing was kicked off by, again, a Democrat on Democrat crime, then this feeds into the idea that this is all game theory. Like we're just watching a game theory map unfold, where incentive structures are being altered and people are being pushed down paths because they're acting in their own best interest, as opposed to like scripts being disseminated and people being forced to act against their will. I think the incentive structure game theory idea, I think, makes a lot more sense, especially from an OPSEC standpoint. Yeah. And just to remind everybody, this did happen in 2019. Like, we have to play this.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint that I've heard from Republicans all last week was that you don't have any.
That's not fake. That's a real clip. And again, like I said, Make-A-Wish Foundation. We should just call him Make-A-Wish from now on. Make-A-Wish Swalwell. But I mean, this guy is actually like a retard, and he is farting on national television while giving a very serious interview about impeaching Donald Trump.
Yes. And also claiming that Donald Trump is a sexual abuser and he's terrible to women. You know, I mean, this is par for the course. All right. Now, there is also now, here's the really telling part. And this is how you know that it was all about the gubernatorial race. All of the Democrats that had previously endorsed Eric Swalwell for the gubernatorial race immediately withdrew their endorsements. All of his staff for the campaign quit. Even staff for Ruben Gallego that I mentioned previously, they are quitting now as well. But not a single Democrat has stepped forward to ask Eric Swalwell to resign from Congress. The other interesting aspect is that in order to run for governor of California, Eric Swalwell needed to put all of his energy into this. The deadline to file to run for his current congressional seat was March 6th. He did not file because he threw all of his eggs into this basket. So whether or not Eric Swalwell resigns from Congress now or completes his term, which will be 9 months, his congressional career is over. But Democrats are still using him because they're not telling him that he needs to leave Congress. However, there is an effort to expel him. That vote will be taken this week. Him, Sheila Trifolis-McCormick, Ruben Gallego, Corey Mills as well, who has all kinds of crazy stuff that he's been involved with, like stalking allegations and, again, sexual abuse, not necessarily rape, but like allegations of, unhealthy sexual activities, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, he's clearly like a super immoral, just like a degenerate. So how poetic would it be if he's the guy that gets pinched and squeals on everybody because he's looking at some really serious consequences.
Absolutely. Now, to go back to the comment about how this is a distraction, the reason I don't think it's a distraction is because we're now finally having a real conversation about kicking these people out of Congress.
Yeah.
Can anybody here tell me why they would want degenerates to remain in Congress, people who we already believe to be blackmailed through their sexual deviancy? Now it's being exposed, and there is going to be a vote this week to expel several of those people from Congress. Now, McCormick may not be a sexual deviant. For all I know, she is, but I don't have any evidence to say that. But she stole $5 million in FEMA and COVID funds, and she funneled it through her campaign into her own personal bank account. She's already had the ethics investigation. My only question is, why is Ilhan Omar not on that list? There's still time. She may be. So this is not a distraction. We are talking about draining the swamp here. It's just not the way that people thought the swamp was going to be drained.
Yeah. That's well, speaking of degenerates in Congress, that's a great segue to our last domestic story, which is MAGA fumes as some in GOP push mass amnesty bill. And again, I've been warning everybody for years now that the real communists in our government are the Republicans. They're the actual communists and the spiritual successors of Trotsky. And here they are. We have, is it Maria Elvira Salazar from Florida,
Yes.
who's a Republican. She is rallying behind the Dignity Act. And remember, these are the same people who preserved.
She wrote the Dignity Act.
Yeah, these are the same people who preserved the USAID bill. And before I pass it off to you, because I know you have a depth of knowledge on this, she's also one of the 5 congressmen who signed the letter nominating Maria Corina Machado for the Nobel Peace Prize in August of 2024. So it was 5 Republicans who did it. It was her, Rubio, and a few other, I think maybe Tim Scott, maybe, and a few others from Southern Florida. But yeah, because they were obviously trying to run a color revolution against Maduro and replace him with Maria Corina Hakuna Matata.
Yes. So Maria Elvira Salazar, former television presenter, a real actress, has written this. She actually wrote it.
Yes.
Yeah, a real actress. Wrote this during the Biden administration. They've been every year attempting to revamp it or re-push it to get it passed. It was fully supported by the Biden regime. And every single statement that Maria Elvira Salazar makes about the Dignity Act, it's actually the Dignidad Act, it's in Spanish, is completely false. I have a clip of her explaining it. Now, there's also like a host of Republican Rhino congressmen who are also co-sponsoring this bill, some of them who are going to be gone at the end of the session. But listen to Maria Elvira Salazar explain what the Dignity Act is, and then I will tell you what it really is.
We give them dignity. At some point in the future, another legislator will write another law to give them path to citizenship. Right now, what we need to do is to buy peace for these people, allow them to stay, to continue working, because they are needed. You see, what I'm trying to do is to bring some common sense, which is the least common of all senses, to this conversation. The economy needs them. They do not have a criminal record. They have not gone into trouble. They have been here for a long time. They have roots in the country. Let them stay. Don't give them any type of federal programs. And allow them to pay taxes, help the Social Security Fund, and let them stay and contribute with the economy with no criminal record. What is wrong with that? We need them.
So we don't need them. She consistently harps on the idea that the Dignity Act is not amnesty, but she said it herself right there. It's a path to amnesty. Now, even more than that, many of the provisions of the Dignity Act would immediately codify people like dreamers, people that are here for visas, the idea of family unification. Every single person who is here in the United States illegally would immediately apply for consideration under the Dignity Act. It would take literally years and years and years to process all of those applications. Even if they're not eligible based upon the complicated language of the bill, you would still have every single person applying for it. It would also create several processing centers in Central and South America, very similar to the sorts of processing centers that were set up using USAID money during the Biden administration to flow all of those illegal aliens in those migrant caravans up into the United States. Except now we would have a permanent foreign presence to create a process for screening of these people in South America, right there in the Darien Gap, in Central America. They would also put these things in the Caribbean. And who knows? I mean, why stop there? It seeks to allow people an opportunity to stay here. And it also stunningly would block the ability of the federal government to use known status of gang affiliation or gang tattoos that are on people. So it immediately codifies the ability for MS-13 and Tren de Aragua to remain here and to become some type of green card holder. Now, she continues to say, not the people who are criminals, by nature of these people's presence as an illegal alien in the United States of America, they are a criminal. All she's talking about is people who have not been arrested, people who have not been charged, people who have not been convicted. Lack of a criminal record is not indicative of lack of criminal activity. The other
if you're an illegal alien, you're by definition a criminal.
Yes,
by definition.
Yeah. Yes. Now, she keeps saying gang members won't be admissible. What she means is people who have been convicted of gang-related offenses. She's only referring to people who have not already been convicted. What also is really interesting is that in the course of all of this conversation, people are really fired up about this, as they should be, because it's blatant. It is amnesty. Even if there is no specific path to citizenship that's written into the bill, she said it herself, eventually the next piece of legislation would be written to do just that. And the Dignity Act would open up all of these pathways to keep people here in the United States. It would also immediately end the mass deportation operations that are going on all across America. Now, President Trump in the White House also put this out this week, specifically talking about an end to an era of amnesty. And of course, President Trump is also hot and heavy on the replacement of immigration judges. We've replaced a ton of them. He continues to fire even more. But what the president ran on was the most aggressive deportation operation ever seen in history. The Dignity Act directly stops that from happening, and it's a slap in the face to every natural American citizen and every naturalized American citizen, because, you know, think about the cost for a person to come to the United States, to do it the right way, all of the paperwork they've got to fill out. For these people who would qualify under the Dignity Act, they would have like $1,000 fine. That's it. And then they would immediately get papers, and then they get to stay. And it's like a recurring thing, like every 3 or 7 years, they get to re-up. And as long as they haven't broken the law, at least as it's written in this, then they would continue to be rubber stamped. So President Trump showing here the amount of asylum claims. Right now, we are at the lowest level in recorded history. Okay. I mean, previously under Obama, go back to 2010, just under 50% of asylum claims were granted, reached as high as maybe 55, 56%. Slightly less under Biden, but still very high. Obviously, we had a major dip under President Trump. Nobody is being granted asylum right now. This 7%, this essentially represents the Afrikaners from South Africa that are applying for amnesty, that are coming here. So this was just a rubber stamp system, and that's because there were so many people who were applying for it. They didn't have the employees to actually vet these people. Just imagine how many tens of millions of illegal aliens are here currently in the United States. If I saw an interview that Maria Elvira Salazar did over the weekend, and if you're only talking about like the smallest number of illegal aliens that we know to be here in the United States right now, the amount of man hours that it would require to process those people, you would have to basically process like 50,000 claims on a daily basis for like the next like many years in order to get that backlog gone. And what do you think is going to happen in the meantime, Gordon? You're going to have continuous streams of people coming into the United States. And for countries that have immigration caps like Mexico, China, places like that, it would also double the number of legal immigrants that would come here. But for what reason would people have to do that legally? They're asking, for people who have been here since before 2020 or something like that. If you've been here since then you immediately would qualify under this, and you come forward and you tell your immigration office that you qualify for this, and then there has to be this vetting process. Imagine how many people are going to say, I've been working under the table since I came here. I didn't want ICE showing up at my door. I didn't want the Trump administration to be coming after me and my family. So trust me, bro, I've been here this entire time. How difficult do you think it would be to fake a couple of documents, showing something has put you here since that time, get some pictures of you in front of the Washington Monument or something like that. Yep. So in order to deal with the plan that she is attempting to put in place, it would require completely wiping out the massive forward momentum we have on reduction in federal workforce. Currently, we're at the lowest levels of federal employees since the mid-'60s. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers have already been separated, either fired, removed, retired, or simply not replaced. And that number continues to increase every single month, tens of thousands every single month. And there's no end in sight. It would immediately reverse all of that. Think of everything that you love that's happened domestically under the Trump administration. All of it's gone.
Yeah. That's thank you for running through all that. That's really good information. Do you have anything else on there?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I actually was skimming Maria Elvira Salazar's Wikipedia page. And I did not know this about her, but I think this is worth just kind of pointing out. Okay. So first of all, she's born in Miami, but she spent a good deal of her childhood in Puerto Rico, it looks like. She spent 30 years working for Telemundo as their news anchor. And that's significant because Trump is always crushing. He's always dunking on Telemundo. He's like, go back to Telemundo. Like, I feel like that's notable. But this is where it gets serious though. Okay. So she basically, in the 80s, she's working for Channel 23 in 1988. And I think 1988 is a significant year, not only because it's the year I was born, but I think it represents the year that the coup that began in 1963 was complete, because that's the year that George Bush becomes president, or is elected president, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the year that she begins working at the White House while Bush is the vice president, and the Pentagon, correspondent for Univision. And then in 91, during the Bush administration, she becomes the bureau chief of the Central America division of Univision while covering the Salvadorian Civil War. There's a few things I just want to list off here that she's significant for doing. Okay. She is the only U.S.-based Spanish-speaking, Spanish-language television journalist to ever interview Castro one-on-one, which means this happened in 1995 because she was assigned. She was the political correspondent for Cuba. So that means in 1995, she basically became like the window through which the U.S. saw Fidel Castro. I think that's really important that she got to frame that for the American people. She also, it says here that she interviewed several individuals portrayed by actors in the telenovela Pablo Escobar, the drug lord, including Escobar's lieutenant, John Jara Velasquez. And then it says right here in 2013, she interviewed Cuban dissident and blogger Yoani Sanchez. And I looked into this Yoani Sanchez character, and it says Cuban blogger who has achieved international fame and won multiple international awards for her critical portrayal of life in Cuba under its current government. So whatever life in Cuba is actually like, I certainly can't say. One of the reasons that we have a deeply negative view of Cuba continued to this day is because of this interview that Salazar did, because she's also a Fox News correspondent this entire time, with Yoani Sanchez. And again, Salazar is the child of two Cuban dissidents who fled the country back in the day, which traditionally we're always told that these are the good people in Cuba. Right. But I think the more I've looked into some of these other countries and the history there, doesn't mean every person who leaves is leaving because they're escaping persecution because they maybe were involved in something that's less than honorable. But it does raise questions in my mind. Like, if you're being hunted down by a government, it could be because you're part of like a criminal organization. That was something that I found consistently in the Venezuela model, was that these people who were being trotted out as like, oh, I'm in exile from Venezuela. It's like, oh, that's because you tried to lead a coup against the government, So I don't know what her parents did. I don't know anything about them, but I did not realize how significant she was in like presenting the framing for Central South America to the American people. And then again, I'll just go back to like the golden age sovereign alliance stuff that we always talk about. People wouldn't need to come to America to seek a better life if the world was a more prosperous place. So I think it would behoove us we don't need to go build it for them, and we don't need to go give them our money like we've been doing. all we need to do is just collaborate with them, cooperate with them, and take down this international cartel that's obviously making all of our lives pretty miserable.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I see the Trump administration doing right now.
Yeah. So that's a great transition to take us to geopolitics. Unless you have anything else to add.
No. I think we hit it.
Okay. Yeah. So Brian did ask, for those wondering, Brian did ask if I would save a good chunk of stories for tomorrow. So him and I will go deeper tomorrow into the geopolitical world. But we'll spend the next 30 minutes just running through some of the high level stuff. And we should definitely talk about like the Trumpomania things happening on Truth Social. But the big story is CENTCOM to begin blockade of Iranian ports on Monday. And I saw Trump put a Truth Social post out saying that it would begin at 10 a.m. Now, we've been out of the loop for several days in Nashville. The timeline for those who haven't been tracking it is that Trump last Monday, I think it was, basically threatened to nuke Iran. That was, he said he was going to obliterate this civilization. I actually want to use AI to create like an AI video of Macho Man Randy Savage reading Trump's Truth Social posts, and then the Iron Sheik like reading the Iranian Truth like X posts. I think that would be great. That'd be a compelling video. So he threatens to nuke Iran, and then a few minutes later threatens to make peace with Iran. Then the next day, before the deadline runs up on Tuesday, he then announces a 2-week ceasefire deal that had been agreed to. A lot of misinformation out there about the 10 points. And Trump comes out and says, the 10 points you're seeing floating around out there are not the 10 points. So just ignore everything you're seeing floating around on the internet. They then send their correspondents over the weekend to Islamabad, Pakistan, to negotiate a formal end to the war. And Trump sends J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. And that effort, it fails. We're told a 21-hour negotiation took place. J.D. Vance comes back empty-handed. And so now a blockade on Iran. Your thoughts on that, if you have any?
Well, I mean, first of all, I never believed that President Trump was going to nuke Iran.
Of course not. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like there's a couple of different things happening. First of all, President Trump has always had this larger than life personality. It plays directly into statements that he's been making for decades, right? He plays hardball. I mean, this is how he makes deals. This is how he gets things done. He always demands like the biggest possible thing at the end, which is, at the beginning, which is, ultimately what he hopes to achieve. And whoever it is that he's making deals with, they push back and they're like, absolutely not. We're never going to give that to you. And he pushes them to the breaking point, to the point at which they finally beg for that which he was initially asking for. The other aspect of this is that power projection means nothing unless you convince people that you're actually willing to do what you're telling them that you're going to do. And I think that President Trump's, powerful statements are structured in such a way, not only to keep people off balance, not only to play into his television personality, so to speak, but also to put the fear of God into people. Like, you make a deal with the United States of America because we have power and we're willing to use it. Doesn't mean that he's going to nuke Iran, okay? But all he needs is for people to think, wow, this is a reasonable possibility because, maybe this guy is just crazy enough to do it. And you see it on X and social media all the time. President Trump has lost his marbles. You had Alex Jones calling for the 25th Amendment, just absolutely ridiculous stuff out there, as if these people have never heard President Trump make statements on anything in the past. Now, this time, they finally are taking it to the point where they, something has to be done about Trump. Nothing has to be done about Trump. President Trump is a genius. All right. This man knows how to get what we want. In addition to, finally now, this blockade going in, he had threatened, all of the European nations, we're not going to do it for you. You're going to have to go in there and do it. Again, that was a test of NATO. Every single one of them failed. Not one of them stepped up. So now Daddy Trump is back in the Straits of Hormuz, and he is the one who is now controlling the flow of oil. And as a result of this blockade, and even the specter of the blockade hadn't even happened yet. And all of those ships that were about to go through the Straits of Hormuz and pick up oil from the Middle East, they all turned around and they went right back into the arms of Lady Liberty, and they flowed into the Gulf of America. And here they are. And what are they doing? They're buying Venezuelan oil. They're buying American oil, and they're buying it through the United States of America. So it's a tremendous economic boondoggle for the United States. And here we are. Yeah, look at all that traffic.
Yes. And actually,
pretty beautiful thing to see.
Oh, sorry, the thing wouldn't stop playing. Actually, I know General Flynn shared one that was very compelling. He said zoom in. But yeah. If you have any other thoughts, I'll pull this up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see right here. Share screen. Sorry about that. Stand by for processing. Boom. Okay. So let's take a look at this, and maybe I can open. It's gonna be easier if I open it in a separate tab. I mean, look how many ships there are.
Wow.
And so apparently one of these holds 2 million barrels. Is my understanding. That is what I read. Is that one tanker on average is about 2 million barrels.
Yeah.
And so you can see, I mean, look at how much traffic, and they're all coming here to fill up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, that seems to bode pretty well, I think, for the U.S. We'll see what happens. And you're spot on with the NATO thing. Trump is saying, what is the point of NATO if when I call upon them, I'm the leader of NATO, the commander in chief of the United States is the commander in chief of NATO. That's like formally understood. And he's like, when I call upon you to help us, and you're not there, what the hell is the point of our alliance? Because whenever y'all need me, I'm always there for you. The one time that I need you to be there for me, you're nowhere to be found. You're scared. You're frightened of what might happen to you, what Iran might do to you, how that might impact your economy. And Trump was explaining to them it was either the G8 or the G20. I think it was the G8. And in 2018, that was the famous picture where he's sitting there like this, and Angela Merkel is like leaning on the table, and it's because he's explaining to them. He's like, y'all are completely dependent on Russia for energy. He's like, you have no independence. Why should I defend you from? Why should I pay money, blood and treasure, to defend you from Russia when your economy is completely dependent on them? You need to either cut a deal with them, or you need to become energy independent. And they didn't do either one. They're just not very good at this stuff, I guess. But anyway, so NATO, I think, is going to go the way of the dodo bird, as will the EU. We have a story on that in a minute. But the whole Iran situation is it's very goofy. I mean, the whole thing's just been very goofy. I saw somebody in the chat say that Trump never used the word nuke or said nuke. No, of course not. He just said, I'm going to obliterate their civilization, and I could if I wanted to. And then, of course, all of the other people out there, Alex Jones on Trump is threatening to nuke Iran, right? They pick that up and they run with it. So, but that's by design. Trump throws the bait out there, and then they run and they grab the bait, and then they just go to the extreme with it. And I think Trump right now is like at his most comfiest because it is total chaos narratively. Nobody knows what's happening. And he is shit posting in real time on Truth Social, which is the best possible Trump that you can have, is the shit posting Trump.
Absolutely. I love it, and I welcome it. And I think that the chaos is wonderful, because this is Trump's MO, to keep everybody around him rocked back on their heels, like completely unsuspecting, unaware of what could possibly come next. And then and it gives him the upper hand every single time.
Yeah. And so that takes us to, the big, I guess you'd say, big news of the day, which is Trump posting a video of himself as Jesus, which I actually don't think he posted a picture of himself as Jesus. I think that's like wildly overblown. But let me see if I can pull this image up. So this is the image, right? This is the image that he posts. And then there's some speculation, some rumor that maybe that this image was altered, and this thing up at the top, this angel at the top, was given wings and horns, maybe. I haven't run that down, but that's what people are saying. I don't know. But just like, let's just evaluate the surface level here before we get into like the deeper stuff. First of all, like, because the people I see freaking out the most about this are like Christians, so like Christian Zionists, really, who, by the way, have spent the past 6 weeks telling us that we need to trust Trump. For everyone who has a little consternation and a little anxious about another war in the Middle East, the Christian Zionists have been like, y'all need to sit down, shut up, trust Trump. He's a genius. He doesn't make mistakes. He knows what he's doing. And now, like, all I'm seeing them post is Trump has made a huge mistake. What a terrible miscalculation. It's like, well, which one is it, guys? Because I would agree, he is a genius.
Yes.
Biblically speaking, there's nothing here that actually alludes to Jesus. There's no cross. There's no crown of thorns. There's none of that. All there is light coming out of his hands and him appearing to heal somebody. And people who've read the Bible should remember that all of the apostles were temporarily given the power to heal people, to perform exorcisms, as were other people in the Bible throughout history at different times. So the ability to heal does not make you Jesus. And wearing white robes with, I guess, a red cape over it, that doesn't make you Jesus either, because you go look at like any Roman painting, any classical painting from antiquity, or even from like, the Renaissance. They're all wearing clothes exactly like that. That's just like the traditional classical way to do a portrait. So I think that this is wildly overblown. I think people are, again, and it's the same group of people who got triggered by Trump saying stuff 10 years ago that they didn't understand. They were like, he's too bombastic. He needs to stop using Twitter. You're still falling for it. You're still falling for his bait. And this is what makes him a genius, though, is he gets everybody off kilter. Meanwhile, he is completely calm, cool, and collected, and knows exactly what he's going to do next.
Yes. I mean, just in a metaphorical sense, I mean, President Trump is healing America. He is healing the psyche of the American people by getting rid of these this global criminal cabal, this organization that has subjugated each and every one of us. It also might have something to do with his late night attacks on the Pope, where he specifically called out Pope Leo for being weak on crime, having bad foreign policy takes, and talking about people fearing the Trump administration. He said but he doesn't mention the fear that the Catholic Church and all other Christian organizations had during COVID, when they were arresting priests, ministers, and everybody else for holding church services, even when going outside and being 10 and 20 feet apart. I like his brother Louis much better than I like him, because Louis is all MAGA. He gets it, and Leo doesn't. I don't want a pope who thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want a pope who thinks it's terrible that America attacks Venezuela, a country that was sending massive amounts of drugs into the United States, and even worse, emptying their prisons, including murderers, drug dealers, and killers into our country. And I don't want a pope who criticizes the president of the United States because I'm doing exactly what I was elected in a landslide to do, setting record low numbers in crime, creating the greatest stock market in history. Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope, and he was only put there by the church because he was an American, and they thought that this would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. Unfortunately, Leo's weak on crime, weak on nuclear weapons does not sit well with me, nor does the fact that he meets with Obama sympathizers like David Axelrod, a loser from the left, who is one of those who wanted churchgoers and clerics to be arrested. Leo should get his act together as pope, use common sense, stop catering to the radical left, and focus on being a great pope, not a politician. It's hurting him very badly, and most importantly, it's hurting the Catholic Church. President Donald J. Trump.
It's brilliant. You may remember last year when they were picking the pope, because remember they had to have a pope election last year, right? Remember when Trump posted this?
Yes, I do remember that.
May 3rd, 2025, Trump posts AI image of himself as Pope amid Vatican search for a new pontiff. It's like, let me pull this one up. I mean, he just knows exactly what buttons to press to get people upset and talking about him. And that's, of course, how he defeated Hillary at the very beginning. I would agree with what you're saying. I think that he's literally saving America. He's literally healing America. So it's a very appropriate metaphor, right? And I don't think it's sacrilegious at all, because again, there's no actual illustrative allusion to Christ.
No.
That's just projection in people's own mind. And they're just thinking straight.
I would say that your take on the fact that the apostles were given the power to heal. I mean, I would interpret that image to be, you know, President Trump as an emissary of Christ. Okay, for him to be acting as an apostle, laying hands and helping to heal that man who is clearly very ill.
Yeah, and so the Pope, like the attack on the Pope is an interesting attack vector, because there's the Catholic Church, the Coptic Church, the Orthodox Church are all right now like up in arms against Israel, because Israel is has expanded a campaign in Lebanon. And we'll before I play that video, though, I do want to share this, because let me see. This is just relevant to the subject matter we were just discussing. Right here. Like, somebody asks Ted Cruz over the weekend. Somebody asked Ted Cruz to say Christ is king, and he's like, you know, some people find that offensive. It's being weaponized online. He wouldn't say Christ is king. And it's like, it's, you know, like, now look, if somebody walks up to me and is like, say this thing with a camera in my face, I'm going to say, you know, go F yourself. But yeah. But still, it's like, he's been saying this for a while, that saying Christ is king out loud is anti-Semitic and hateful. And it's like, that's sacrilegious, in my opinion.
I would agree. There's no reason not to say it. You know, I don't care. People weaponize words all the time. That's not going to affect my usage of them.
Yes. And so now we have, as we wind down, we have, this is actually hilarious. You know, remember this kid, speaking of, you know, missing a chromosome and Make-A-Wish Foundation, is his name Breland Hollyhand? Remember, this is like the artificially created Charlie Kirk replacement, right?
I'm only just tangentially familiar with him.
So he's most well known now for within an hour of Charlie being shot, he was on Fox News smiling and like being all smiles and being like, Charlie was such a good guy, what a great guy. I mean, in the exact same manner as he's speaking right now in that clip, he was speaking just like that.
Wait, you didn't play anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is my screen not up? Okay, I'm sorry.
There it is.
Yeah. So this guy, this clown, Breland Hollyhand. And so here, let's just listen to what he says.
All right, Trump just posted this, and I've got to admit I'm pretty frustrated. Faith is not a prop, and we shouldn't laugh at it being used as one. There's innocent humor, and then there's this. You don't need to portray yourself as a savior when your record should speak for itself. Comparing yourself, even jokingly, to Jesus, it undermines the very value that many of us hold dear. This hands easy ammunition to critics. Instead of dominating the news cycle tonight on substance, it shifts focus to something completely avoidable. The same God who saved Trump's life when he was centimeters away from death in that field in Butler. The same God who opened doors nobody saw possible for him to be president not once but twice is the same God who sent his son Jesus to die on the cross, not for memes, but for our sins. He died for Trump just as much as he died for you and I. And there's not enough tweets, executive orders, peace treaties that can get us to heaven. It's faith in Jesus Christ alone.
So this behavior, this is why people hate politicians. It's because this behavior right here, this is how Republicans primarily, but really all politicians have always acted. The holier than thou. I know better than you. I'm gonna be very, very kind and genteel, but very condescending as I explain to you why I'm morally superior because your behavior is unacceptable. While simultaneously as like how old is this kid? Like 17?
I don't know.
Like while simultaneously asserting that he is smarter than Trump, as he said, there's a totally avoidable scandal. Why would you do something this stupid? This guy thinks he's smarter than Trump. He thinks that Trump doesn't know what he's doing. And again, like there's the smug pomposity of it. This is why people hate Turning Point USA, by the way. This is why people couldn't get on board with Charlie Kirk. I posthumously have gone back and looked at some of the stuff that he was saying and doing in the months leading up to his death. And I will admit that I had some things wrong about him as it relates to Israel and the Middle East. But for the most part, whenever you're talking like this to people, this is where people are going to say, get the hell out of here. Like, get out of here. So anyway, let's go to Netanyahu, because Netanyahu posted a video of himself with a bunch of literally, I mean, it looked like a bunch of like ISIS guys. I mean, it's a bunch of masked like IDF soldiers, and he's wearing a flak jacket, and it's in Hebrew, so I'll read it to you. It says, "I'm here with the defense minister, the chief of staff, the regional command general, the division commander, and our reserve soldiers. This is the wonderful spirit, a willingness to fight, and they are fighting well. And the war continues, including inside the security zone in Lebanon, where I was just an hour ago. And what we are seeing is that we have thwarted the threat of invasion from Lebanon thanks to the security zone, we are pushing back the danger of anti-tank fire. We are also dealing with the rocket fire, but there is still work to be done. We have we've done tremendous work, tremendous achievements, and there's still more work to do. We are doing it. One of the things we are seeing here is we have essentially changed the face of the Middle East. Our enemies, Iran, and the axis of evil, they came to destroy us and are now fighting. They are fighting simply for their survival. We see this in every single arena. This is a tremendous achievement for the state of Israel. The Israel Defense Forces, the regular soldiers, and our wonderful reservists. Thank you. The people of Israel salute you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And to you too. That's what they say. Then he shakes hands. Okay. So as I think we've discussed last week, the last time I did a show, the orders that have been given and they've been reaffirmed over the past week is that everything south of the Litani River, that would be like the bottom 1/10 of Lebanon, is to be completely emptied out of people, and every single structure is to be destroyed. And the argument being this needs to become a buffer zone, like a DMZ. And if there are any structures left standing, Hezbollah will use them as fortifications against the IDF. Here's the problem. There are a number of villages in this area that are 100% Christian.
Yep.
And there are massive crosses that you can find. Just go look up online, crosses in southern Israel that are erected on mountaintops. Some of them, I think, are like hundreds of feet tall. They're lit up at night. They're put up by these villages. These are the villages that are being bombed. This is why the Catholic Church, Coptic Church, and Orthodox Church are up in arms against the IDF because of what is happening. It is a genocide against not only the Lebanese, but the Christian Lebanese.
Yep.
And the most important of which is the tomb of Paul. So, or I'm sorry, it's not Paul. I think it's Simon Peter. So the tomb of Peter, which is in southern Lebanon, has been destroyed.
Oh my God.
Where is it?
Do we have video, pictures?
Yeah, just give me a second. I thought I had that pulled up. Yeah, here it is. So there's different videos and pictures that are out there, yeah. So it says Israel has bombed the shrine of Simon Peter, Apostle of Christ, known locally as Shimon al-Safa in Shama, South Lebanon. Again, Israel had previously bombed the shrine in December 2024, a sacred site that stood for centuries, now gone. So this is where the Apostle Peter, who's credited as the founder of the Catholic Church, is buried, and the IDF blew it up. So again, like, this is what's happening. And yeah, anyway,
that's
important
horrible
to note that. So what's interesting is that, these Christian villages have not been friends with Hezbollah for the past 30 years. Now it's Hezbollah coming to their defense and protecting them and defending them and helping them escape or whatever, and protecting their sacred sites too. They're protecting the churches, they're protecting the tombs, they're protecting the crosses. And so now Hezbollah has become the hero of the Christian Lebanese people in southern Lebanon. And finally, we have, and we'll land it here and then do rants, President Erdogan on Fox News, I think this is from yesterday, talking about this.
There are a lot of things that are happening that around the world that are hot spots. Another big one, obviously, is what's happening in Gaza. Would you consider what's going on in Gaza genocide?
Başka türlü bunun izahı mümkün
I
değil.
don't think we can explain it in any other way.
Bu dört dörtlük bir
This is
soykırımdır.
completely a genocide.
Ve bu soykırımın
And this
faili de
genocide is caused by Netanyahu.
Netanyahu çok acımasız
Netanyahu
şekilde
mercilessly
on binleri ne yazık ki
has
bu
unfortunately killed tens of thousands with this
Bunun
genocide.
dışında da tabii ciddi
Other than
manada
that,
yaralılar var.
there are a lot of
Yani
there are the wounded.
120 bin, 125
We
bin
think
kadar yaralıyı
120,000 or 125,000 of them,
aldık.
we took them in our country and we are
Ama
providing medical care.
ölümler
And all these deaths, unfortunately, are as a result of this genocide. And facing this genocide, nobody is saying anything. As Turkey,
bu soykırımın da tamamıyla karşısındayız.
we are in complete opposition to this genocide.
Yeah, and so sorry, I'm trying to pull up this article that I had. Wrote a brief on it last night. Basically, between this and other comments that Erdogan has made is that they would, if the peace negotiations with Pakistan fail and Israel doesn't back down in Lebanon, then Turkey's going to get involved. Like Turkey's going to intervene, and that introduces a new dynamic because Turkey, of course, is NATO, and Erdogan, of course, is one of Trump's dearest friends, according to Trump, in the Middle East. So it presents a very interesting dynamic as Trump is de-escalating or trying to de-escalate the war with Iran. Netanyahu is escalating the war in Lebanon with Hezbollah being an extension of Iran by narrative.
Yes, absolutely. And it's quite notable that during the midst of all this tension with NATO, Turkey as a NATO nation is stepping up to effectively protect the lives of these people that otherwise really have nothing to do with this war. I mean, other than the position of their placement within the Middle East. And it's quite clear as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is all in service of greater Israel. They want to clear these people out, and they would like nothing more than to just continue the war. They figure, we've got Iran handled. Now let's go ahead and get rid of Lebanon.
Yeah. And the two videos, I'll play the videos tomorrow with Brian, but the two big things that happened over the weekend were first, it was Bezalel Smotrich, who's for sure the most radical person in Trump and Netanyahu's government, came out and said that they are going to annex southern Lebanon, southern Syria, and Palestine, or he said the West Bank. And then Israel Katz, who is the defense minister in charge of the IDF, in charge of the military, came out and affirmed that, I think the next day or 2 days later, that yes, they are going to annex southern Lebanon, southern Syria, and the West Bank. So the Greater Israel Project is on. They are being very open about it, that's their intention. And it is absolute escalation. So we will see how Trump and the Sovereign Alliance approach this.
It's going to be interesting no matter what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see if we have any rants and boosts. Hit the thumbs up, guys, if you have enjoyed this conversation. Zach, always love doing these kind of shows with you, man. I could do this like all day, just sit here and talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah. People were asking me what I plan to do with Wednesday nights, and I was like, I'd love to do a show with Ghost, but he's already super busy. So
yeah, well, who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe we can work something out. We will keep that in mind. So, all right. So we read the Kairos 5326 rant, and again, please see the link in the comments. If you can support Sherry and her family, please do. Emerald Dragon 1333. Hey guys, I just stopping in on my lunch. GART was excellent. Wish I could have been there. Great way to lead up to my birthday today. And now I get all my Badlanders back at it. Thanks for everything. Happy birthday, Emerald Dragon.
Happy birthday.
Hope you have a great day.
Absolutely.
And glad you enjoyed GART. Escape the Matrix 91. What's up, man? Great seeing you both at GART. Thanks for all the hard work you put in. And it was great seeing you as well.
Likewise.
Always awesome to see people from the chat there. Gizmo's mom, what is the name on the Gibson Go for my darling I think it's Jenkins. Jenkins Family House Fund. It looks like that's the name.
Well, the title on the page is "Helping the Jenkins Family Get Back on Their Feet," but I've dropped the link again into the Rumble chat, so there you go.
All right. Thank you for that. Kitty724, appreciate the office space and Swalwell laugh out louds this morning. Much needed with all the heavy news of late. Yes, if you don't keep yourself laughing and a happy warrior, you will fall into cynicism. And that's where I think, you succumb to blackpilling, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, tonight, guys, given I've been out of town for like 11, 12 days nonstop. So I'm not doing a Book of Trump tonight. I will be back here tomorrow on Daily. I will be tomorrow afternoon, Geopolitics with Ghost. And then I'm going to be on Wednesday, Breaking History, of course, but I will be on Space Revolution with General Quast this week.
Sweet.
Really looking forward to that. So
must see.
I was able to talk to him about what we're going to discuss and the ideas over at GART. So tune in Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. What do you have coming up, Zach?
Well, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. on my channel, and then tonight on Badlands, 10:30, Baseless Conspiracies with John.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you, Zach, again for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Or maybe I'm supposed to be thanked for joining.
Either
me.
way,
I don't know
we're
which
both
one
here.
Yeah. All right, man. Hope to do this again soon.
Okay. And before we go, we need to very quickly mention the final sponsor of our show, which is, of course, a favorite of Badlands Media. Here we go.
Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone at the close-up, do you see how awesome my beard looks right now?
I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil
To every
directly
hair.
to my mustache.
Nice and, oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
that amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you'll be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great product.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.